Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be here today. Thanks for having me. My name's Evan Jacover. I'm the CTO of Jackbox Games, and today we'll be talking about the Jackbox Party Pack, the collection of 5 games we've made every year for the last 7, going on 8 years. I'm really excited to talk to you about it. So here we go. So I'll definitely get into the Jackbox Party Pack franchise. But first, I think it's good to start with a little history. So if you'll indulge me, we'll go back to the 90s. And if you won't indulge me, you can fast forward, I guess, because it's a video. So Jackbox Games used to be called Jellyvision. And Jellyvision started out with a hit trivia game called You Don't Know Jack, which was released in 1995. As a side note, I started out at Jellyvision as an intern after getting this game for Hanukkah and writing a fancy fanboy letter to the company. And then, I guess the rest is history. Been there 20 some years. So You Don't Know Jack was known as a trivia game where high culture and pop culture collided. So it had questions like this one: which of the following household tasks can Superman not perform? And the answer is erase a floppy disk with his magnetic force. And as you can see, this content becomes somewhat dated over time. Not a lot of floppy disks floating around these days. So after You Don't Know Jack, Jellyvision released You Don't Know Jack Sports, followed by You Don't Know Jack Volume 2, You Don't Know Jack Movies, You Don't Know Jack TV, You Don't Know Jack Volume 3, You Don't Know Jack Volume 4, The Ride, You Don't Know Jack Head Rush, You Don't Know Jack Offline, Louder, Faster, Funnier, You Don't Know Jack Fifth Dementia, You Don't Know Jack Mach 2, You Don't Know Jack Abwärts, which is the 3rd German edition. You Don't Know Jack Volume 6, The Lost Gold, which went off the rails a little bit, I guess, if I'm being honest. A lot of You Don't Know Jacks. And it's not like we didn't try to make some other games. Some even made it to market. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, the PC CD-ROM game, Jellyvision made that one too. But it was a struggle to break away from being the You Don't Know Jack company. And then some new consoles came out and the CD-ROM market kind of evaporated. And this sounds like the beginning of a behind the music story where we all descend into drugs and bankruptcy and all of that. But it wasn't as dramatic as that. The Jellyvision did go dormant in 2002. And then around 2008, it was revived as Jellyvision Games. After some experimentation and research, Jellyvision Games released its first game, which was You Don't Know Jack, 2011. We couldn't quite escape it. We tried branching out into mobile and social games, but we struggled to make the freemium model work. And, not as many people played Live Swatter or met Octoputs, the Word Putz mascot up there, as we would have liked. The thing is, like, so-called social games aren't actually all that social. You play them alone in the bathroom or, on the couch, not at a party with friends. And that was kind of our thing. We wanted games where you play at a party with friends and there's laughter and you yuck it up and stuff. And the whole freemium model was difficult for us, But then a new device came along and we thought, okay, maybe this will help us break back into people's living rooms. And that was the Ouya. For those of you who don't remember, the Ouya was a Android console that was a big hit on Kickstarter, made several $1 million on there. And we thought, this might be a good opportunity for us to get a new game out, back into people's living rooms where people could play on their couches with their friends. And so we released You Don't Know Jack on the Ouya. So we were kind of scrambling at this point. Money was tight. We had this game, but we had an issue. Like how many people are going to buy 4 $50 controllers for a $99 console? So we weren't convinced that many people would be playing You Don't Know Jack with their friends if they didn't each have their own controller. So we thought, well, if only there's some way, like some device that everyone had in their pockets already that they could use to interact with our games. And that led us to make a mobile controller app that we called Jackpad. Jackpad was problematic for several reasons. For one, you had to install an app, and that's an immediate roadblock for many users. Very frustrating. Also, everyone needed to be on the same Wi-Fi network, which is also a pain in the butt. And then there's always that person with a weird phone. At the time, there was Windows phones. We're not going to make a Windows phone app. And so it was somewhat limiting in that way, too. Well, much to our chagrin, Ouya didn't pan out as we had hoped. And so we tried to regroup and figure out what we could do next. We had spent all this time writing content for games like Lie Swatter that didn't really take off. So we thought, well, maybe we could use that for something else. Lie Swatter is a simple trivia game where you get statements like blondes have more fungus problems or hot pink is the most popular selling duct tape color. And you need to decide if they're true or false. It's really that simple. And we thought, well, what about movie theaters? Yeah, there's all that time before movies start, and there's a giant screen, and people have their phones out anyway. Plus movie theaters are this evergreen business that will always be popular, right? This was in 2013 when Netflix still only had one original series. So we built a version of Lie Swatter for the big screen and took it to a midnight showing of Christmas Vacation at the Music Box Theater in Chicago. And unlike Jackpad, we just had people go to a website, togetherplay.tv. And they'd go there, sign in, and interact with the game. No apps to install, no controllers. And guess what? It worked. People took out their phones and played along. It was really cool. I'll leave this as an exercise for the viewer, but you can decide if this is a real Kanye West tweet. As soon as I'm off this jet, I'm a rent. We bought a zoo on Redbox. So every player would see that statement. They'd have to say if it's true or false. There was a leaderboard. Lots of fun. Unfortunately, it turns out movie theaters like using that time before movies start to sell ads and make money instead of paying game developers to entertain people. So this business never took off, but there's something compelling going on. Look at all these people happily playing on their phones. And so it felt like something we wanted to pursue even more. What came next was a new game called Fibbage. Fibbage is a bluffing game where you make up answers to obscure questions and try to tell the truth from the fiction. So, for example, a Swedish man who works as a dishwasher receives disability benefits due to his unusual addiction to blank. All of the players type in an answer that they think could plausibly be correct. We show all of the player submitted answers along with the correct answer, which in this case is heavy metal music. And then everyone tries to guess which one is the correct answer. And Fibbage did well when it was released. It felt like we were onto something with this phones as controllers concept and party games, and we wanted to build on that. So enter the Jackbox Party Pack. We often don't want to admit that things are about money, but honestly, the first Jackbox Party Pack was to some extent about money and staying in business. We were selling Fibbage for about $7 and wanted to find a way to get a product at a higher price point into the market. And a pack of 5 games for $25 seems like a pretty good value proposition. 5 games, $5 each, not bad. We just needed 5 games. And we kind of wanted to do this pretty quickly. Fibbage came out in the summer, and we were going to try to release the party pack by the holiday season, by November. So we were in a rush, and we had to figure out what we could do. Well, we had Fibbage already, so that's one game. So we made a couple more questions, called it Fibbage XL. We still had that Ouya version of You Don't Know Jack. And so we repackaged that and called it You Don't Know Jack 2015. So that's 2 games. Lie Swatter, we had all the content from the mobile version. and we had done some work to make it work in a movie theater on a big screen. So that's game number 3. Our editorial director, Arnie Niekamp, mentioned that he thinks he figured out how to make the Lyswatter host flow work with only 5 or 6 new lines of audio recording. That's how bare budget we were at this point. Drawful is essentially fibbage with drawings, and we didn't have a lot of time to make Drawful, so we took advantage of the fibbage structure as much as we could, so much so that the sound effects in Drawful 1 are mostly Andy Poland, our audio designer, using his voice to try to make the exact same sound effects that for each moment in fibbage. And then there's WordSpud, which is kind of a long story, but this is a game we had floating around years and years ago. We made it for the Jellyvision website in early 2000, and we thought that maybe that would be a thing. It was a 4-player game, and there's this opening song that kind of explains how it works. And I got a Flash Swift from 2005 working to put this in here. So let's see how it goes.
When the world is past to your name, type a word or phrase that will raise your head, and then you hit return, and the other players vote. And if they like what you say, then you all feel so gay. Cause you just made the word spud. Hey! Word spud!
So that's Andy's son, their sound designer, Andy's son, who recorded that singing when he was about 5, and now he's in his 20s. It's still a catchy tune, though. So yeah, WordSpud is a game where just a word is passed to your name, as he says, and you have to type in anything that goes with it, and everyone votes and decides if it's acceptable or not. If it is, that new word that you typed in is passed to someone else, and it just continues on forever. It's a weird game, if you even call it a game, and it's become a bit of a punchline at Jackbox Games. But, hey, 5th game. We needed 5 games, and there we are. So we went on, quite a journey here. But each of these steps or missteps or dead ends led us to making the party pack. And so it ended up all going someplace useful. We realized we wanted to make party games. That was what we liked doing. We were tired of making You Don't Know Jack, or maybe our audience was tired of us making You Don't Know Jack, or maybe both. Freemium just wasn't for us. We didn't have the skills or interest to find ways to monetize players. We just wanted to make a fun game and sell it, and not have to worry about everything else that goes into making freemium games. Physical controllers are too expensive to expect a bunch of people to buy them for a casual game. It's a pain in the butt to download apps. Ouya wasn't the answer. The movie theater market wasn't interested. Consoles were starting to allow self-publishing by independent studios at this time, which was an exciting idea for us. We needed to get to a higher price point, and you add all of this up, and you have the Jackbox Party Pack. So making a pack of 5 games may have initially been about making our business sustainable, but it also turned out to be one of the best things we could have done creatively. As we learned with You Don't Know Jack, it's very easy to fall into the trap of just catering to your audience and making more of the same thing. We had something that had caught on with Fibbage, and we could have just gone down this road of Fibbage Sports and Fibbage 2 and Fibbage The Lost Gold, whatever that would be. And eventually that franchise probably would have just petered out. Now, the Jackbox Party Pack 2, which came out the next year, did include Fibbage 2, but it also included 4 brand new games, including Quiplash, which ended up becoming probably our most popular franchise in the Party Pack era. And before Party Pack 2 came out, we actually did a Kickstarter for Quiplash and released it as a standalone game. We had just seen Exploding Kittens make like $8 million on Kickstarter. And so we had moderately high hopes. And it did mediocre, I guess. We probably lost money on it, all things considered. But one takeaway of this is that it's really hard to get people to buy into an entirely new game idea. And, people ask us all the time, why don't you just release all these games individually? And, one of the reasons is it's just a lot of, it's hard. The Party Pack concept helps a lot with that. Jackbox Party Pack 3 included Quiplash 2, which by then was a big draw. And we thought, okay, that will be an anchor title that will draw people to buy Party Pack 3. But it also had 4 other games, and all 4 of them would go on to become really big hits for us. Trivia Murder Party 2, for example, went on to become the anchor title in the Jackbox Party Pack 6. So, we came up with a new anchor franchise through this Party Pack model. And Trivia Murder Party, both of the Trivia Murder Party games are among our most played games. Another way to think about it is if you have to spend $6.99 on a game like TKO in order to play it, you need to be convinced that it's worth it. And we have to find a way to market that to people and explain what TKO is, which is a little complicated. For those who don't know, TKO is a game where you draw pictures and make slogans and then combine those on a T-shirt, and then the T-shirts battle each other until there's one ultimate winning T-shirt. It's a weird game to say the least. But if you've already bought the Jackbox Party Pack 3 for Quiplash 2, you'll at least give TKO a try, to see if you like it. It's just there in the menu waiting to be played. You already have your friends over. Just, let's see what TKO is like. And TKO has become a very popular game for us as a result. Without the leeway to push boundaries, knowing there's still a lot of value in the pack, we probably wouldn't have made these more niche-y games, some of which became big hits and some which didn't. But games like Monster Seeking Monster, where monsters ask each other out on dates, or a game like Bomb Corp, where office workers and a robot and a talking dog need to fix a photocopier so it doesn't blow up, or Push the Button, a spaceship where a spaceship crew has to identify aliens by playing little mini games, or a game like Devils in the Details, where a family of devils needs to work together to make dinner. And you might think, well, these games I'm listing here aren't that popular. They're the niche games of these party packs, which might be true. But what we found is people's favorite games are all over the place. There isn't really a consistent thread of like, this game is the best game. And if you look at just the Party Pack 7 reviews, we see things like this. Talking Points is my absolute favorite game in the bunch. I found that Blather Round was probably my favorite. Devils in the Details might have been the most fun game of the pack. Champed Up is without a doubt the best game in Party Pack 7. Quiplash 3 leads the pack of new party games. So, it's hard to say, what's what. Every game was declared the best and the worst by different reviewers. And so, you get a pack of games and it has 2 or 3 games that you love and, 2 or 3 that you don't. It's still a good value, and everyone is getting different games that they love and different games that they don't. So without this game model, I don't think we ever would have built up such a vast portfolio of games, or like the creative engine to keep generating new ideas. And that's been such a boon to our company. And we've come a long way since this. Also, I just want to throw it out there. You Don't Know Jack is great, and I love it. We brought it back in the Jackbox Party Pack 5 as You Don't Know Jack Full Stream, and it's probably my favorite version of the game. It's just nice when you don't have all your eggs in one basket for one game like that. One of the most difficult design challenges of You Don't Know Jack full stream was reinventing question types like the Jack attack or the dis or dat to be played with 8 players. In previous Jack attacks, the first player to pick the matching answer correctly got the points for that question, and everyone else was locked out and didn't even get to answer, or had no opportunity to get it right. And in this new version, it keeps really the spirit of that alive, but everyone can answer, everyone can get the right answer, and it still has that tension, which I think was a really impressive coup by the design team. Also, You Don't Know Jack was meant to be the tentpole game in Party Pack 5, but we actually found that some new games like Madverse City and Patently Stupid were played more, and that's a good thing. I think, we're always happy to have new franchises take up the mantle and keep things new. All right, now I'd like to go a little bit into our process for developing new games and getting them into production. And for starters, let's take a look at our timetable. We release a pack of games every year, which really condenses the amount of time we have to work on these games. In the fall, that's when we release our latest game, usually in October, our pack of games, I should say. We develop marketing assets. We do a postmortem. We go on convention conference tours and promote the games. And we also begin forming some small teams and playtesting new ideas. In the winter, that's when we're really focused on playtesting, ideating, playtesting some more, identifying an anchor title for the pack of games. Did I mention playtesting? We're still doing that. And we start the green light process. In the spring, we lock in games for the pack, hopefully. And we get into pre-production and production. And then summer, we're in full-on production and development. Sweating a lot, get into submission by the end of the summer. So it's a year, but really, when we're in production, it's maybe 6 months of production time for each game, depending how quickly we come up with ideas for the games. A big part of our company culture is that anyone at Jackbox Games can pitch games. We've had games pitched by writers, artists, producers, engineers, QA, you name it. Good ideas can come from everywhere and anywhere. So if there are game designing rats in our office with a game idea, and I'll be honest, there might be. It's an old loft building. Let's hear them. So it took us a few years to come up with a process that made sense, and we've kind of been honing it since then. But here are the basics to our greenlight process, which is what we call the process to get games into production. We have a rotating greenlight committee. It used to be the same 4 people, always on the committee that would hear pitches for games. And last year was the first year we started rotating different people onto that, which is great because we're getting some different perspectives, and we'll probably get some different types of games greenlit, have some different thoughts and ideas into what makes a good Jackbox Party Pack game. Before pitching a game, it's expected that whoever is going to do the pitch has run several internal play test sessions. We want to get other people at the company to see the games, play them. We also send out a survey to the whole company asking what everyone's thoughts are on a game, and that gets incorporated into the Greenlight Committee's assessment. Games don't need to be digital to be pitched, and I'll go into this more in a little bit, but we need to be able to play something. So it could be a bunch of index cards or Post-its or, drawing on a piece of paper. We do that sort of thing all the time. And we just want to try to get a sense of the game. And at this point, we have we're pretty good at seeing the course from a bunch of Post-its to a fully produced Jackbox Party Pack game. Pitch results for all the games are posted for the whole company. We try to make this process as transparent as possible. And I think that's something we've gotten better at every year. So all of the explanations for why a game is going into production or not is shared, and the whole company can see all that stuff. A lot of people ask what makes a good Jackbox games. Even internally, people who are pitching games want to know, like, well, what should I be doing to, get my game, give it the best chance to get picked. And there's not really a specific recipe. And we kind of go out of our way to say, like, there's no criteria, but we did put some criteria together to help guide people. And it's very possible that a game could meet none of these or all of these or some combination and still be greenlit. So we love games that appeal to a wide audience. The Jackbox Party Packs are bought by all ages, all different types of people. We love hearing stories of people playing with their grandparents over Thanksgiving. So we want to cater to as many people as possible. This is very vague, but fits the brand of Jackbox Games and the Jackbox Party Pack. We kind of let people interpret that as they will. We're probably not going to make a gritty, serious, war game. Who knows, I guess. Has a lot of excitement and passion within the studio and will be fun to work on. We're big believers that if you like what you're making, you'll make a better product. So, there might be a game that seems like it would be a good fit, but if no one's really excited about it, we're probably not going to make it. Is funny and makes people laugh. Our CEO notoriously has an office right next to the conference room. And, if he hears a lot of boisterous laughter coming out of a playtest, that will definitely, make him curious about what game that was. Funny games and laughter says that people are having fun. And that's been our bread and butter for a while. Encourages social interaction and gets people talking. Even if a game works on your phone as a controller, if you're spending the whole time just looking at your phone and not interacting with anyone in the room, that's less ideal. Has a low barrier to entry, easy to understand, pick up, and play. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. We don't want our games to have a 20-page rule book or, explanatory video. We want you to, maybe stumble through one play session, but after you've played the game once, you should get it. Does something new within the party pack format. We're always looking for ways to try something different. It was really exciting for Madverse City to push some boundaries and do text to speech, for example, drawing, whatever a phone can do, taking pictures. We're always looking for ways to push the medium further. Doesn't work better as a card game or board game or mobile game. We want a game that really fits our format, with having a big screen, shared screen, and then a small screen in your hand. Isn't too similar to another game we have made or are making, especially a game in this pack. We don't want to have a pack of 5 drawing games or 5 trivia games. We like to have, a broad range of different game types. And finally, engages the audience in a new and or meaningful way. So when people pitch a game, there's a couple different pitch results. You could have a green light, which means the game is good to go on to the next stage. And at that point, we'll staff a team on it, and it will go into pre-production, evaluate and assess production risks, identify the game core, and define a creative brief. That's all part of the pre-production process. Some pitches have a yellow light, which means it's a neat idea, but we need to revisit some assumptions. Sometimes the game mechanics aren't quite there. Sometimes we're worried about certain risks, and we want to make sure we can resolve those risks in the time frame before we put a game into production. And usually at that point, we'll assign some additional people to to the pitch team, and they'll be expected to work on it for a while and then repitch the game. And then there's red light, which isn't like, ugh, what a bad game. It's more like, we're not going to do this game right now. So let's put it away for now, and we'll revisit again maybe next year if there's still interest. And a lot of time there is interest, and a lot of these red lights do get revisited. There are about 5 or 6 games pitched for every game that makes it into production. And often those games that don't make it into production are revisited and refined year over year. I do hope someday we get to make Poop Cake. One can dream. Trivia Murder Party is a good example of a game that took a few years to get a green light, and how it benefited from having a bunch of other games pitched as well that didn't make it into production. Trivia Murder Party, for those of you who don't know, is the classic "you've been kidnapped by a serial killer who asks you trivia questions to determine who lives and dies" trivia game. What a trope. I mean, it kind of is, I guess. So everyone who gets the trivia questions wrong goes to the killing floor and has to play a mini game to determine if they live or die. So here's an example of a trivia question. And that's kind of what took a long while to figure out. Like, the trivia is fun, the mini games are fun, but being dead or a ghost, you turn into a ghost, and out of the game is not fun. Here's an example of a mini game. Different people put poison into different cups, and you have to guess which cup doesn't have poison. If you drink poison, you die and turn into a ghost. If you don't, you get to continue on and stay alive. And the game continues until there's only one person alive, and then you go on to the final round. So originally the idea was that you just want to be the last one to survive. But then it's no fun being out of the game and feeling like, well, I can't win. Then there was an idea where the last survivor faced off against the ghost with the highest score at the end of the game. But that still left a lot of players uninvolved if only one ghost was able to win the game or compete to win the game. So this is from a game designer on the game, Mark Turowitz. He said, making everyone feel dead but still involved was the missing ingredient. I think the final round content came from a playtest for a different pitch called 66%. And we combined that with this dumb horse racing prototype. So what he's saying here is the final round for the game basically took aspects from 2 other games that were pitched that we also didn't make, and some aspects of Trivia Murder Party that already existed. If you want to know what the dumb horse racing game is, if you've ever been at a carnival and seen this game, you get the idea. Although I guess this is camel racing. I don't know where this picture came from. Oh, Wikipedia. Anyway, so we had built a prototype for a game where you answer trivia questions and your horse moves forward based on how well you do on the trivia questions. And we never made that game. So the final round ended up looking like this, and taking elements from all those sources. So the last surviving player, the one at the top, gets a head start, and everyone else is a ghost. And based on your score, some of the ghosts get more of a head start as well. And you need to identify which items fit in a category correctly to move forward. So in this case, which of these 3 choices are African nations: Zimbabwe, Guam, Somalia. And it ended up being a really fun, exciting final round. If a ghost overtakes the survivor, they steal the body and they become a corporal character again, and they're in first place. And then the first player to exit escapes and wins the game, and it really fits the theme really well. And I think this final round ultimately is one of the main reasons this game works so well. So now I want to kind of finish up by just talking about where ideas come from and how they coalesce into a game at Jackbox Games. So as I mentioned with our timetable, once we wrap up a party pack, we immediately jump into coming up with ideas for the next pack. Some games spring fully formed from the head of Zeus, or in the case of Jokeboat, they spring fully formed from writer and director Brooke Bright. This game, she conceived like of this game almost in its final form, right down to the name and the cruise theme. Some games take months to name, but Jokeboat was immediately and forever Jokeboat. Here's part of the pitch doc. All aboard, toot toot. You and your friends are passengers on a cruise ship where you're also the entertainment. Put up your best or worst jokes as players try to get the approval of their peers. And if you play Jokeboat, that's pretty much what the game is. Other games take longer, and Madverse City is a good example of that. Madverse City started out as an experiment to see if there was anything we could do with text-to-speech, and also technically if we could do text-to-speech in a game. So I'm going to take you on a little journey here through play tests from 2017. So the first one, this game was called Telefun back then, Telefun Test, or in September 27th, 2017. So players listened to an obscure VO voiceover file and then wrote down what they thought was being said. So there was an audio file that was distorted, so you could barely hear it, and you had to, take a guess at what it was. The results, guessing the correct answer, which no one ever did, not a good sign, or hearing it revealed wasn't the fun. The fun was hearing the guesses. So about a week later, we did another test. Brian Chard, one of our audio designers, was the one who started this whole process. Telefun test number 2, similar to Fibbage this time, where one player's response to a prompt is distorted and others guess what it said. All the responses are read via text-to-speech. It was fun to hear the computer say what people wrote. Biggest laughs were the word chode and a few comments about Ryan and Mark. So we're learning that text-to-speech could be funny here, especially when it says what people wrote. Later that week, each player was given a list of 2 to 5 parts of speech to provide, adjective, etc. Those words fill in the blanks of the first line of 4 poems. So now it's poetry. The results of this test, figuring out a way to gamify it would help. I like the idea of it being competitive instead of collaborative. I'm interested in trying some sort of rap battle. Now, about a week and a half later, couplets, now the game is called. Players write parts of an entire couplet. It's played back using a singing version of text-to-speech with musical accompaniment. The singing robot was hard/impossible to understand. Let's try this with the entire first line filled in except for the last word. Now, if you've played Madverse City, you know that that's how it ends up working. Now we're finally calling it Rap Battle Beat Poetry. So we're getting closer. Tested a beat poetry version and a rap battle version. Though both produced laughs, the rap battle felt more like a game. And finally, Halloween. Looks like I told them up front that the Mad Libs words would need to be rhymed too. So they should take care not to set themselves up for a tough writing task. And the results this time, we're starting to get into kind of the more nitty gritty, wonky game mechanic honing in now of the game design. Scoring should maybe be a combo of voting by spectators mid-rap, but also by voting post-rap. And that's pretty close to what the game ended up looking like in Madverse City. You have two couplets. You're given the first line except for the last word of it, and then you write the second line of each one. Players can vote during the reading of the rap, which is text-to-speech, and then they also vote at the end on who did better. So it gives you a good sense of how our games take form over the course of several play tests and tweaks. Push the Button also took several years to find its footing. We wanted to do a Mafia werewolf style game for a long time. For over 3 years, we probably produced over 10 prototypes and pitches and variations. And just looking through our docs, there are designs for all different variations on this. So we could go through some of those. Warren Arnold, who's a game designer at Jackbox Games, was particularly interested in this game. He started it off. And originally there was a pitch called Push the Button. This is another example of the name of the game making it all the way through to the end. The first pitch was all a drawing game. And then there was Push the Button with Guns, where a leader sends players on missions to fix a ship. And if people searching a ship find bullets, the leader can shoot a crew member. Push the Button Oxygen version, where you're on a ship running out of oxygen and you need to complete a gauntlet of mini games before you suffocate. Push the Button Experts edition. Each player has a hidden expertise and needs to convince others that they are the expert. Saboteurs lie about their expertise. And this goes on. Push the Button Word edition. Push the Button Escape Pods. And finally, we're back to just calling it Push the Button again. There's a rotating captain who can pick from a set of activities to challenge the others and deduce who the aliens are. So some things that helped were letting a captain choose a task and also choosing who will complete the task. So not everyone does every task. And there's some strategy in the choice of who's going to complete the task. And if you played Push the Button, you know that a lot of these choices that you see here didn't make it into the game. You can't airlock a player or lose 3 minutes, for no reason, or skip a captain. There's obviously a lot of hidden identity games out there. If you'll remember, one of the criteria that we look for is ideas that wouldn't work better as a tabletop game. And that's one of the things that made Push the Button compelling, was that there was this constantly ticking clock, this timer, and it puts pressure on players. And that's something that would be really hard to do elegantly in a tabletop game. In pre-pandemic times, almost all of our games start out as paper and pencil tests. It's common in November to just see scraps of paper and Post-its with weird stuff written and drawn on them strewn about conference rooms. This is an early prototype of Champed Up here, Mr. Pinch and Harold Handy. This is another game that never got made. Not really sure what's going on with that baby's arms. Here's another paper prototype of a game. Spiders. Yeah. Okay. One more. I just like showing these because they're funny. Bag of lint, head and torso, old fishing net. This year, however, we had to rely on a bunch of different tools. For example, a complicated spreadsheets in Google Sheets was a tool we used to test games remotely over video conference, since we were all working from home. So this spreadsheet here is a test of what would ultimately become Thriplash, the final round for Quiplash 3. We also use Tabletop Simulator. Roll20 is a tool that's used to run tabletop role-playing games like D&D. So here's a play test we did using that. You can make what you will of this. Here we are using Jamboard, which is Google's whiteboarding tool. This is a test of a game that will actually be in Party Pack 8 that we haven't announced yet. So feel free to study it and try to figure out what's going on here with Mr. Fingers and Randy Blandy. Here's another test of the same game. And this game, weirdly, uses a mechanic that was first used in Poop Cake. Remember Poop Cake from before? Arnie Niekamp, who pitched Poop Cake, actually demoed the paper and pencil version on a charity Twitch stream because we figured, normally we don't show games like that we haven't released in case we want to release them later. But we figured it's not like we're ever going to make Poop Cake, right? And little did we know, a core mechanic of Poop Cake would end up in a game in Party Pack 8. Can't believe how many times I just said Poop Cake. Anyway, after the paper and pencil testing or Jamboard or Google Sheets or whatever. We often make a digital prototype, and this is a digital prototype of that same mystery game I've been showing. Yeah, more spiders in this version. And here's another example of a digital version of a game. This is Job, which we announced will be in the Jackbox Party Pack 8. And this is what it looked like maybe a month ago. And the team is hard at work making it look not like this anymore. So we're really excited to get more games out in the world. We love this process. It's been very fun for us. And this is what we're working on now. We have 5 games in production for the Jackbox Party Pack 8. And I know the whole team at Jackbox Games can't wait for everyone to play them. So thank you so much. And I'm Evan Jacover from Jackbox Games. I hope this recorded. And I hope you have a great Game Developers Conference. Thank you again.